All right, y'all are live.
Well, good morning, Duval. We are ready to go on a beautiful Friday here on the First Coast. We have some weather coming in. We don't know if we're going to be able to see some action tomorrow on the practice field, but rookie minicamp is today and tomorrow. And we say, hey, Joe C. from the Sports Lounge high atop the 11th, and our head coach, Dave Campo, in his trophy room. Coach, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Listen, minicamp tomorrow. You know, I only wear this Super Bowl ring when it's time to play ball. You know, and that. I'm excited about it. You know, I guess everybody should be excited about it. And from what I understand, the minicamp tomorrow is sold out with the fans.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. A lot of excitement going on.
Yeah, I love it. It's a great opportunity to come out and witness the work that's been done this entire offseason once James Gladstone came in and took over to basically put together a draft class. We're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at the rookies and then the undrafted free agents that were signed as well. We'll talk a little bit about both of them. There's a couple of other pieces of news that we definitely have to hit. Of course, the Gabe Davis release, since you and I were on Tuesday with our Campo and Joe podcast. So welcome in Joe C. from XL Primetime, head coach Dave Campo. If you guys have any questions, anything like that, comments, we'd love for you to join in the show. All you got to do wherever you're watching is just throw a comment our way. We appreciate it. That's for sure. But it's all Duval that we talk about. And of course, how the rest of the league is taking shape. We're going to cover that as well during the offseason, but primarily it's all about your Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's start on a high note though, Coach. Before we get to the actual rookie camp, I thought this was one of the coolest things. We're talking about the talk of the NFL draft was Travis Hunter, and the Jaguars move up to get him. Lo and behold, he walks yesterday in a graduation ceremony and then makes his way here for the rookie minicamp, walking as a two-time first-team academic All-American. That is pretty dang cool.
Well, you know how I feel about that. You know, when we started the Cowboys on their run in '89, the one thing we did is we took smart players. Yeah. And the reason for it, you know, smart guys develop. So you could say whatever you want. You know, there's a lot of guys with great athletic ability that don't make it, that don't have the ability to take coaching and move forward. And that, obviously, this kid's talent matches up with all the intangibles. But you know, though that one thing, being smart and being able to handle, I believe he's a 4.0 student. Yeah. I don't think he's just a guy that went into basket weaving classes here. I think this guy's a smart guy, and that gives him an excellent chance for sure.
Yeah, I think it's awesome when you have an aptitude for the game and an aptitude in class. It's going to marry up beautifully, I think, for any player to have his best chance at success. Don't ignore any opportunity. Soak it all up, which is what he did. He wanted to be a good student and wanted to be a good football player. He now has a fiance. He wants to be a good husband, and he's going to be great for Duval. There's no question about it.
That shows his discipline as well, because, you know, a football player, you know, he puts a lot of time in those meeting rooms and stuff, and to then go and put that same effort into the classroom, it's fantastic. I love the kid already. I know a little bit about him because of Dion and Kevin Mathis, who played for me, coached him. I know a little bit about him, but I don't know him until I see him on the field.
Yeah, and look, more than anything else, he can bring attention, focus, and fandom to Jacksonville from outside the 904. We fight like heck for a little respect, a little love, a little recognition. But guess what? This team went to the playoffs in 22. Everything was going great guns. People were starting to forecast big things for Doug and Trev, and we all know that didn't go down. And so now here's another opportunity to hit the reset button with a new front office, a new coach, and some excitement on the football field.
Yeah, and you know the one thing about with Travis, and again, winning is what we're about here. We're not about appeasing all the fans around the country. But when you do deserve it, if you get more respect from the national media and all that, it helps your football team. And the one thing about Travis Hunter now, I don't know if you know much about Twitch. I don't know much about it, but he's got 2 million followers, and there's a lot of people on there that are not football fans. So as far as the excitement going across this country, he brings it. along with his ability to play football, which is good for Jacksonville community in general.
Yeah, it's a great point. And with those followers, he was playing, he's a gamer, so he was playing one game that all the gamers loved seeing him do it before he got selected when he was in the green room. And then he's wearing pajamas at the graduation ceremony. He's just chill. And so I'll take it all day. And look, between our podcast earlier this week and now, we've talked a lot. We're going to keep talking about it, Coach. How many plays is he going to play? How many times is he going to step on the defensive side of the football field? Is it just in red zone? Is it in third down situations? Is it where he's going to take on more responsibility? Is Jarian Jones going to step aside every time there's a big play? There's a lot of discussion on the defensive side as far as how this thing's going to go.
Well, the one thing about it, that he's going to play both ways. Now, how much he plays, on one side and how much he plays on the other side, we've talked about it now about it's just as much about adjustments on the sideline. You can't play every play. The game is about adjustments, the football game today. So, you get a lot of things when the offense is on the field, the defensive guys are talking to their coaches and getting those adjustments. So it's not about mentally, he probably can handle it. And to be honest with you, I think he can probably handle it physically to play a lot of plays. But at the same time, that's important. So this is going to be an ongoing thing. It's going to be interesting to see how much time he gets in practice on each side of the ball. I think he'll start on offense, and then, he'll, get some work on defense, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I love it. The back and forth sharing of information, everything that he could do in terms of making a big play on one side of the ball. Let's just say he breaks loose on a pick and he takes it to the house. He's going to take that next play off. First down on offense.
Correct.
He's going to be happy to take that first play off. But those are the sudden change types of plays that I think all of Duval wants to see.
Yeah, I think the thing that's so exciting about him, and I was around one. And again, I'm not comparing them at this point. But, I was around Deion. I saw what a guy can do. And there have been other guys, Champ Bailey, some of these other guys that have been able to do it on a limited basis, one side or the other. But I saw Deion up close and personal. And to be honest with you, he probably could have played more plays on offense than he did. They were we had some pretty good receivers, in that 95 Super Bowl along with Deion. And that's, you got to be careful there too. Let's say Jarian Jones goes out to corner and is playing really well. How much do you want to put him in there in that situation? The guy, they have to have a good camaraderie as a team. And that's all the process that they're going through on the coaching staff of how much to use those guys, use him on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, look, I'm Mr. Optimist. So are you, but you do have to bring in at least a little question as to how do personalities come together as players with shared responsibility, shared spotlight, and again, I think it's fair to ask: is Jarian Jones ready to take a back seat just to let Travis be in the spotlight for the big play? My answer is hell no. Jarian Jones is going to say, look, I'm going to lock down that spot. Now, he may not be good enough. He may have to give way to Travis, but that's the competition that I'm looking forward to. I have no problem with it. I welcome it.
Yeah, and I do as well. I think it comes down to the culture. It's how, do you have a team that the number one goal, and that's more difficult today than it used to be in the old days.
Right.
From a financial standpoint, there's a lot of difference between whether or not you're a full-time starter or a part-time starter. All those things, enter into. You could even say, hey, Lewis, the guy coming in, the DB from Dallas, play nickel. Mm-hmm. Listen, Jarian may move into nickel on some plays if he's starting at corner and now Hunter comes in, and I think a guy like Lewis only cares about one thing. He's made his money. He wants to win games, and he's also an older in the tooth guy, so he may relish some time off. All those things are going to be factors as they go through the whole thing.
And I'll welcome it 100%. I will welcome it because this is what you want. You want good competition. You don't want to go, holy smokes, we don't have anybody. Let's
Correct.
try another thing. Let's move Savage in. Let's move wherever, all the different things they did last year. And so it's basically raising the floor, which is what Gladstone has said during the offseason. The bottom half of this roster needs to be brought up to a different level. DeAndre Prince can factor into this. Monteric Brown. There are a lot of guys that are going to be fighting for some spots. It's either going to be special teams or the ability to get in position and make plays when training camp and OTAs unfold, because it's on now, bro. It is on, Coach.
Yes, sir. This is great. I mean, I think that, listen, the better football teams have all kinds of competition. You've heard me say that Deion Sanders only went one-on-one against Michael Irvin and vice versa in practice. Because if you've got good players, that makes you better. And if there's competition, that brings out the guys they want on the field. They want guys that have those intangibles and everything. Well, one of them is competitiveness. Let's line up and see who the best guy is, and then we'll go and see what happens. And listen, all we care about is we want to win games. That means let's get the best guys out there and let's compete and see who the best are.
Robert, he did chime in, and Yoda was quick. He put it on the screen. If you guys have a comment, just definitely jump in, and we'll try and get to him. But he said, I think getting the strength and conditioning coach from Buffalo was good, and Travis will benefit from it. And that was one story that Tony Vaselli told in a big way, just as far as getting on the phone with Eric Ciano and just basically talking him into the idea of coming here. And you need a guy like that, Coach. You need someone who's going to come in and make this team cat quick, which is what they worked on in the draft, is to find some speed, but then also find some physical players that can benefit from a really good strength and conditioning program.
Well, the thing is, players win games. We know that. But let's not diminish the coaching here. That Ciano pick as a strength coach might be the most important addition on the whole coaching staff, because just as an example, Hunter coming in here, if he's going to play all those games, he better be in condition and physical and all those things. So, and that's one of the things that was told to me by Kevin Mathis, his coach. He's going to get in and he will do whatever it takes in the weight room. And that's going to be certainly important for sure.
Yeah. Can he get to 200 pounds and carry it well? I would think so.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So he's going to be here this weekend. We're looking at the weather. We don't know exactly how it's all going to shake out, but let's at least talk about a couple of the other undrafted rookies, and we'll focus in on some of the other rookies that you'll be out there tomorrow. We're dying to see what they look like, not just Travis, but what Wyatt Milam looks like, what Ransall looks like, Bashal Tootin. You can go on and on and on with these guys. They already are inking some of these players to contracts, making sure that they're ready to go. And heck, I'm fired up for everything they're going to throw at them. But just from a minicamp point of view, we're just going to see a lot of drills, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to see a lot of individual drills. There's no question about it, but I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, they've been in here for a day.
Yeah.
And they've been in meetings right along here since the draft. So I wouldn't be surprised if we got some teamwork and some, 7-on-7 or whatever it's going to be. I'm kind of interested to see if they go 1-on-1, because that's one of the things that we did back in the day in the rookie minicamp, was to see what guys could press and what guys could just do natural ability. They haven't had much coaching with this particular coaching staff, but I think they would like to see them compete a little bit early, and we'll see how that goes. That's the individual part of it. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a few team plays or unit plays, 7-on-7, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I could easily see they want to put them in not like over-the-top stressful situations, but like you said, here's your work, learn it, know it, live it, that type of stuff, and let's get on the grass and let's see what it looks like. All right, so Yoda, throw up on the screen. We got a bunch of undrafted free agents that are going to be coming in. They're going to have a chance. So we'll focus in right here on a lot of these guys are on the offensive side of the ball. You definitely have a few that are going to come in on the defensive side of the ball. But when you start looking at the opportunity, coach, for any of these guys, and you can go anywhere from Elon all the way to Arkansas and Oregon and everywhere else. J.J. Jones was a guy that was mentioned by one of our fans that are watching on the stream. He's saying J.J. Jones is a sleeper, says Robert. And there's a kid from North Carolina, 6'3", 210 pounds, coach. He's another one that's going to say, hey, put my name in the hat in the wide receiver room.
Well, I think the wide receiver position is probably going to be one that they're going to be looking really closely at because, number one, you need a lot of those guys, including guys that are going to go to the practice squad.
Right.
But there's a couple things that showed up to me when you talk about the wide receivers in general.
Mm-hmm.
Big. They brought in guys that are over 6 foot for sure, but I'm talking about 6'2", 6'3", some guys that are around 200 pounds, 205, that type of thing. But the other thing that shows up, there's a couple guys there that can run now. You talk about Pancol, the guy from Duke. He's a 4'3", 340 guy. He can get it now, and he's a compete production, 800 yards receiving. He's got a great work ethic. So there's a guy that right away, he's got traits that give him an opportunity to jump in there and go. And he's at Duke, which he's pretty smart to be over at Duke. So that combination probably sticks in there. And then you take Brayboy, the receiver. He's a 4.47 guy. That's not great speed, but that's pretty darn good speed. But he's a fearless kick returner. He's a tough guy. He catches the ball really well. He has a little bit of inconsistent hands at times. So guys like that really have a chance. The Jones kid, the only thing I don't like about the Jones kid from North Carolina is that he's a 4'6", 340 guy.
Okay.
So he's a guy that you have to look at and say, okay, what are the other things? The one thing that shows up to me is what they said about intangibles. The kid is a hard worker. He's a guy that you're going to get the best out of him when he's on the field. Those kind of guys have a chance to compete, and that's from the receiver position alone. And they got Darius Lassiter from Boise,
right,
or from BYU. Excuse me. That Kwame Lassiter played in the league. It's his son, so he's got some some genes in there. And so there's a number of guys that you say, okay, they had pretty good college careers. They at least come in and compete.
And like we said, there's a couple small schools in here, but there's a bunch that are Power 4 teams. And you've already mentioned a handful from the ACC, a little Tobacco Road battle between the Duke wide receiver and the Carolina wide receiver, but also a couple from Arkansas, Colorado, Minnesota, a couple from NC State, Penn State is in there. So you definitely have some good representation, and they're trying to spread it out to a number of different positions, and you're going to find out which of these guys can stick and stay. So when you talk about undrafted free agents, and like you said, the opportunity to get on a practice squad, all this work that's been done during the off season, at least as the story goes this year, Coach, it was real important to find undrafted free agents because it's a little bit of an older group with that super senior that was working post-pandemic. They all had an extra season. The NIL kept them there a little bit longer. So this is, at least according to what a lot of people are thinking, a really important free agent class to try and sign and lock in on some guys.
I think that there's a number of guys, Joe, and we can hit some defensive guys as well, but there's a number of guys in that group that, because of the type of people they are and the size and speed they have, the end of the roster, you don't know what that's going to be. And you said it earlier, you got to improve the end of the roster as well. Yeah. To give you an example, they let Cooks walk, and we thought Cooks was a pretty good player. So if these guys are better than Cooks, then they've improved, and it's their guys that they're bringing in. So a lot of it's going to be evaluation as to whether or not these guys coming in improve the back end of the roster. And that's important special teams wise. a number. Kaiser, the draft pick. I don't know what he's going to do as a linebacker. He's all over the field, but he's not a speedster. But he's a great special teams player. Okay, let's get some guys in here that improve the whole football team, not just the starters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point because you have to fill out. It's either going to be a group of guys that are going to become core 4 guys that are going to become nice first contract dudes that can stick around and see if they can make this roster. And then you never know. You're going to get a guy that's going to be able to flash and move up the ranks, move up the depth chart. One of our guys just mentioned another Colorado player, BJ Green. Ricky said, look, let's look at this dude, 6'1", 270 pounds. He's another guy that when they're trying to fill in the blanks, we already know McLeod is going to be seen as a guy who can walk up to the line of scrimmage and work off the edge. But you never know when some of these other either interior or edge guys along that line can provide some depth. Because, Coach, let's be honest, after Trayvon and Josh Hines-Allen, and then you can go with the Emmanuel Ogbah signing. But other than that, they're thin right there, thin.
Yeah, and again, a lot of it has to do with, does Cole continue to develop? We're not even talking about some of these guys that were backup guys that are still on the roster, not the guys they let go.
Right.
But, you got Abdullah, you got Cole. Those guys, you don't know what they do the second time around. There's a lot involved there, but they brought in 6 defensive linemen in the free agent, undrafted free agent room.
Yeah.
So, they think that that's an area that they have to improve, whether it's defensive lineman number 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever it is. You don't just play the starters. Back in the day with the Jaguars, Rob Meyer, one of the defensive tackles, had a great career. He was a backup to Henderson and Stroud. But guess what? He was as good a player as they were. He just happened to be a little bit less but had a great career. So those guys are really important for the football team as well. The other guy from Colorado now, don't dismiss this Craig kid, the safety.
Okay.
Because the safety position now is one that they need to make sure that they've got guys that can play on the special teams and do all the other stuff too.
So that's Cameron Simon Craig, 5'10", 185 pounds, another guy. And if nothing else, enough tape time study was spent on Travis Hunter. They probably picked up on a couple of these other guys.
Interceptions, support, tackling, all those things are important. And we need to improve that area. Believe me, we need to improve that area on defense as much as we need to help Trevor Lawrence. There's some areas that we've got to make sure we shore up a little bit over there.
And so Coach had mentioned Rob Meyer, and Coach knows because he was coaching on the defensive side of some playoff-bound teams. Those were some really good defenses. And Rob Meyer, if memory serves, was a 7th-round draft pick. And
correct.
You can go back and you can think of a couple of guys. Bobby McCray, I believe, was a 7th-round draft pick.
Yes.
He ended up getting to a 10-sack year one year. Rob Meyer was as steady as they come. Joe Sweeney was the first one, and then Rob Meyer was the next guy.
Consistent, strong, solid, really a good one. And, you go back to the Cowboys when we were there, we had 8 guys that could play up front, including the defensive, including the edges, the ends. We had 8 guys. That's important. And they really wanted to do a little bit more in the pass rush and that kind of thing, but it just didn't fall in the draft, on the board. Mm-hmm. And so they made up for it by bringing some guys in that have some traits. Yeah. We're going to find out. You're talking about 7th-round draft picks in Meyer and McCray. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about Leon Lett and some guys in Dallas. Those guys, we're going to find out how good of drafters these guys are. Because if some of those guys make the team, they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, if you can get a McLeod, as late as they got him in this draft, to step up in pass rush situations, get to the quarterback and knock him down. And I'm not going to compare him to any of the other really top cats right now, but if he represents off the edge speed where he can beat a tackle off the snap and he's got good bend and he can get to the quarterback, hell yes, that will be a huge up. And we can go to like last year, Yasir Abdullah hardly ever touched the quarterback. Miles Cole, we mentioned him, a seventh-round pick. He didn't register a sack either. But get these guys in a better situation, and let's see, particularly Cole, because he's a huge human being.
Good looking.
Oh, my gosh.
Athlete.
You like what you see from him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good-looking athlete. Listen, I'm not unsold on Cole. I'm not unsold on Mason Smith. I really think that they've made a decision that he's going to be a pretty good player because they really didn't address the defensive interior until now.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys we're talking about, all these defensive linemen. So they feel like there's some guys there that they can develop and continue to give them a chance to win. We'll find out.
Yeah, because, look, we've maintained the new leadership in terms of, like you said, how good are they at picking players? We're going to find out. How good is this new coaching staff? And we're talking about a bunch of newbies. They are all walking in with a new name tag that says first-time defensive coordinator, first-time offensive coordinator, first-time head coach. And so all those things, Campanile, it can't be any worse than what the Cheap Trick defensive coordinator, Cheap Trick, we call him Rick Nielsen instead of Ryan Nielsen because he was a Cheap Trick artist on that defensive side. It was terrible. And so the instruction, the accountability of the player, getting them in position to make plays and stress offenses, holy smokes, if they can get a rotation that can do a little bit of that. And Eric Armstead needs to come up big. You know that as well as I do. He needs to be a leader this year from that interior spot along with 44 and 41.
If I was Armstead, I'd be a lot bigger than I am right now. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But if I was Armstead, I would take this year as a commitment that I'm going inside and we're going to straighten this stuff out.
Yeah.
Because he's capable of doing – I look at him like I look at Agba. Yeah. I look at Agba as a guy, look, I just want to win games. And I could start if I had to. Well, Armstead is coming in there, has got to come in with the idea he's going to start at one of those positions.
He is a starter.
Yeah. And if I was him, I'd be disappointed in what went on last year. I'd be coming in here with a new attitude and the whole thing. So he might have come in last year putting a little wool over the eyes of Balky. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do all right here because I don't want to handle all that power inside. I'm gonna move outside. They're gonna allow me to do it. No, he's inside. He's gonna get the smoke in there, as Leon Searcy talks about.
Yeah.
He's got to be a factor. There's no doubt in my mind.
And you could call it an end of career year that he could really go off into retirement knowing he balled out.
That's right.
For 11 years in the league. And he was recognized as the man of the year and did great things in the community, which is still a great thing. I'll never take that away from him. He's an accountable cat, but he needs to be accountable in the inside of that defensive line. And the other thing is if he does get off with some success inside, down in distance, 3rd and 8, he can get kicked out and rush from the edge in that situation. He can move around. He can be effective in more than one spot, but primarily it's got to happen at the 3.
Yeah, he's got to go in there and we got to play ball with those guys. They've made, again, I'm gonna repeat. We've had some problems in the past here with guys thinking, we're all right. Okay. Well, this group has made the decision that we're all right inside, the interior. So let's go. You guys perform in there. And I can't wait to see what they do either. Not just the new guys coming in.
Yeah, you know how I feel about it. I was banging the drum. I wanted to see
me too.
1 or 2 more, and I want size guys, not even the 3 as much as I wanted to see the bigs right now. Somebody backing up Devon Hamilton. Somebody maybe even pushing Devon Hamilton for that starting spot.
Yeah.
And if they ignore interior and edge depth, then it could come back to haunt them. So I agree with you. We will be watching that big time. All right. So before we wrap it up, just a quick thought on Gabe Davis. It kind of takes us back to the wide receivers that you were highlighting, guys that have an opportunity to be special teamers and back end of that wide receiving depth chart, because Gabe Davis wasn't playing special teams. And so what did you think when they made that decision?
Well, it surprised me, because I number one, was I happy with what he did last year? Absolutely not. He dropped the ball a number of times in critical situations. He was injured. All those things were there, right? Mm-hmm. But I remember him. I was fairly excited about him coming from Buffalo, because what he did in Buffalo was good enough to win games. Okay. So, I was a little surprised, because I thought, okay, well, here's a veteran guy. I was really surprised when Morse came out and said the guy was a great, in the locker room, a great professional, and all these things. It kind of surprised me, But the only thing is that sometimes guys, Morse was with him, in Buffalo as well.
Buddy. Yeah, they're
so
buddies.
He could play it up, as a friend and whatever. But at the same time, that surprised me. But at the same time, this is now the Gladstone, Liam Cohen, Baselli show.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
cutting him says that Shad Khan is all in.
Yeah,
these guys are going to have an opportunity to turn this thing around. Period.
Right. Yeah, and I like that you said, because Shad's probably, owners at some point go, wait a minute, I spent all that money and you're going to cut this guy loose? Well, yeah, he's saying, hey, free reign. I've been writing a bunch of checks. I want to write checks that are more valuable now instead of wasting my money and my time. So they whacked about $70 million off of. I shouldn't say that. They cut those guys, but it still counts as about $70 million in dead cap money, which is not great. All right, so Sleeper Jaguar, let's just end on this. They gave Gabe a $24 million signing bonus, but he tweets out they give up $21.1 million in dead cap in 2025 and 2026 with the Gabe Davis deal. Now, he did the math. I'm just going to trust him. That is $1.6 million per catch, $500,000 per target, $88,000 per receiving yard, $10.6 million per touchdown, and $2.34 million per start. That is no bueno.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and by the way, it's been a long time since I fooled around with cap and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not a general manager.
Yeah,
but I know that value on the dollar is important. What you just read off there doesn't excite me a whole lot. At the same time, also that there is a way in the next couple of years that they can mediate that money. If he goes somewhere else, then it changes the money. And I'm not sure how that works, but I just read that somewhere. So I'm not putting my stamp on it. But I read somewhere where if he goes somewhere else, that can mitigate the money a little bit to where it's not the same deal. You have to look into that.
Right. They get to chop it up over a longer period of time and basically just kind of sweat it out slowly. The dead cap money. And it's going to be no more than $3 million over 3 of the remaining years. And so it's not bad. But it had to be done. And Gabe was not, as much of a good story was for him to come home to Fernandina Beach in the First Coast and the UCF night, go Knights. It just wasn't good. It was bad. And so now they open the door for new opportunities and guys that can work off of rookie contracts instead of expensive free agent contracts. We'll end with Ricky's comment. The front office has made so much change to the organization that you have no choice but to be optimistic. And I love it. And look, that's all you can. You got to welcome this kind of change because the way the draft and the way the free agency classes unfolded under Balky over the last 4 off seasons, just atrocious.
Yep. Well, it's time. It's time to move. And with the new stadium coming in, with what's happened here over the last 2 years, really, it's these guys are going to get some leeway.
Yeah.
In other words, this isn't going to be a 2 years and done.
No.
This is going to be at least a 4-year, in my opinion, to build this football team. And they obviously believe that this roster wasn't great, but they do feel, I have the feeling that they do feel that there's enough core guys to give them a chance to win this year in the division. So to me, let's go. Let them, they're going to do their thing, and let's roll.
All right, Coach. That's a great way to end it. Mic drop there from our head coach. Appreciate it. As always, thanks to all of y'all for watching. And we'll be here every Friday at 10:10. And then we'll be on XL Primetime later this afternoon. Coach, look forward to seeing you then.
You bet.